how are you feeling? This is not your first, foray into releasing an album. But this is your first solo project. So, how are you feeling leading up to that?
I mean, it's super fun. I feel like I'm in a whole new world, but obviously things are familiar about it. It's almost like you're in a dream or something because it's like I've done this before on a different in a completely different way, and I think this new thing is in a lot of ways a continuation of what I was doing before, and in a lot of ways something completely new. And I think it's been really, really fun. I mean it's there's been all these new challenges and all these new things that I didn't expect to be so great about it. And I think the best part is that I'm working with a lot of the same people, and I feel like I've remained in the same sort of like scene, at least in my like where I live, even like changing projects. So for me, it's been really fun, and it's allowed me to explore new things that I've always kind of had, like I've always wanted to say, but haven't had a place to do it. So yeah, overall, it's been a fucking blast.
I knew about Frat Mouse, but I was looking into it and I discovered, and I was so giddy when I found this out, that you're in Fat Evil Children as well.
Yes, yes, yes.
Which was one of my favorite albums of last year. And so that was just awesome to
Dude, that's
see.
so cool. Yeah, no, I those are some of my best friends. I love those guys. I mean, obviously I'm in the band or whatever, but beyond the band, we're like great friends. And we made that record in the same the so I went to USC and I
Yeah.
lived in student housing there for like the last 2 years, my junior and senior year. And behind where I lived, there was this garage, and it was like a perfect music making space. There was like a desk in there, and like somebody actually left a grand piano in there, which was crazy. And it was from Chicago, which is where I'm from. So this is meant to be kind of thing.
Yeah.
But so we made that whole Fat Evil Children record in there as a all five of us, the four in the band, and then my manager is the same manager as Fat Evil Children. So like it's kind of this friend group, and we have these different projects. But we made that whole record in that garage, and then right after it, I made my whole record in the garage. So it's like we're very intertwined, I feel like, and I play with them all the time. I just played at Zebulon with them like a week ago. I mean, we play Friday the Chosen plays all the time in LA, and it's such a blast. I'm just as you know, I guess I'm just well, maybe I don't know if you know this, but I just I play lead guitar live. I don't sing or anything, so it's really fun. It's a completely different experience. I can kind of just it's like looking at this, it's like playing a different position, you know what I mean? It's just it's an interesting time. So
Let's go back. You grew up in Chicago, correct?
yes.
And then you moved to Los Angeles, which is two different kind of scenes. So how did
Yeah.
you get into music, and then how did that change after you made the move?
So I've been it changed a lot, and it was so I got into music with like just a friend group when I was in like middle school basically, and we were just like we would form different bands and like meet other kids who were into music, and like we probably all got into like Green Day and then like went down the rabbit hole into like more gnarly underground stuff, and like just got really into like how much music there is out there. And I think so we got all into like underground stuff. We were playing all the time. And then I moved to California. My dad's job moved out to California, and my whole family moved out basically. And I was bummed as fuck because I like didn't have a band anymore, and I didn't have anyone to play with. And I started going to this different school, and I felt kind of out of place. And so I turned to like recording music in my room, which was super therapeutic and like something to do. And you can do it alone, and it's fun and creative, and like I just fell in love with it. And I think it became it made me love music as a whole even more. Like learning to record music really gave me an appreciation for the medium as a whole. And so I basically got super addicted to doing that, and I would just do it all day. And I kind of like checked out of high school. I mean, I was going, but I was just like coming home every day and like recording shit all the time. And then through doing that, I was looking for people to record, basically like, oh, you if you sing, like I'll make a song and you sing on it or something, because I didn't have anybody who was playing music, so I was really grasping at straws. But yeah, one thing led to another, and I was in a couple bands, and it was always just the most fun thing. And like I think that's how I found my place, like in California for sure, was like being the kid who like had Logic on his computer and like
Yeah.
wants to record. So yeah, and then I had a couple bands, and then I had one band, I had Frat Mouse, and then that became more of a thing. And I think through Frat Mouse, I developed a love of like performing live because we were playing all the time. And during college, I mean that band started in high school, but then into college we were really active, and we were playing like The Smell like a million times. We were there like every weekend. But yeah, I think through that I found that I do have a love for performing and like that real life sort of visceral activity. And then yeah, I was a runner for a producer in LA. Still am actually. And like it's basically like you're a studio assistant. And that's what I was because I went to school to be an engineer. So I was being an assistant at a studio and I was going to school for being an engineer and I had this band. And then always wanted to be a producer, a music producer. And so I was talking to this producer I was working for and he was telling me about how he had been in a band since he until he was like 30 and it was like the way he got into producing. And I was like, oh, that's super interesting. Like I can understand how somebody like wouldn't trust you to produce their record unless they've heard something that you've made that they like. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a debut album. Like I'm gonna go super hard and like do this side project so I can like express a side of myself and use it as like a resume. And then through doing that, it just has blossomed into this whole other thing. And I mean, I've always been a songwriter, so I knew I loved that. But it sort of felt like I built myself into this person that is like a performer and a writer and a singer and a songwriter, but like it was sort of by accident, like one step at a time is what it feels like. So
This is sort of your first full solo project, or is it still very kind of collaborative?
this is my, well, I was always like the head producer for like Frat Mouse, and what I mean by that is like we did it on my laptop in my bedroom, but like it wasn't like but we were all together, you know, and like we would all throw stuff out and everything. This record was definitely alone for all of it. I wrote and made all of it alone. I played all the guitars, all the basses, and all the shakers and everything. My friend Ben played the drums on all the songs, but like I recorded all to like a drum machine and then we did the drums last and everything. So it was definitely an insular. I was waking up at like 6 a.m. making the music before I'd go to class and then coming back and working until midnight and like doing that all the time. I was like completely obsessed for like 3 or 4 months just making this because it was like one of those really beautiful things where like you're super inspired, you have something to say and you have a way to say it and you have a place to do it and you're like have time. It was amazing. So I just fucking grinded it. And yeah, it was like strangely not lonely. Like I feel like I'm not somebody, I mean I do like to spend a lot of time alone, but I'm not necessarily somebody who's like, oh, I love being alone or whatever. But whenever I'm making music, it's great. I just feel like I just don't feel alone, but I'm alone for so many hours. But it's just it was great. It was fun.
Is there any kind of process that like you follow a certain set of steps along the way, or is it always just kind of you find it as you go?
I think not being precious about it, and trying to find it as you go is a good strategy because I think that you don't know, like I think everybody's changing so much every day. So like what is going to work best today is not what maybe is going to work best tomorrow or the day before. But with that being said, I definitely found a way to express the types of feelings I was having at that period of my life, and that really gave me some tracks to sort of go down in the sense where if I had a song idea, I knew that I was going to put these instruments on it at the very least. And then I would go and do that. And that would be like and like for this album, for example, it would be like electric guitar and acoustic guitar, drums and bass, and a tambourine, and maybe a harmonica. Like that was like the general primary colors that I knew was going to be on pretty much every song. Maybe not the harmonica on every song, but that kind of thing was what I was going for. And then I would add like, okay, this song could have like an organ or whatever. Or this random song could have some lead guitar part, and you would like expand the world. But I think what was cool about this project is I like had an outlet for the songs and like had a general world that I was working in, and that developed pretty early on. I think with the first couple songs, I was like, oh shit, it was like a new way to. It's like you get like a new outfit, and you're like, oh shit, this is awesome. I'm gonna wear this around, and then you can
Yeah.
use all your old like personality quotes and shit, but it like feels different because you're in your new suit. You know, that's kind of what it was.
Yeah. So, what were there any kind of specific artists that you were listening to a lot at the time that you feel like influenced it?
A huge influence is this artist Waxahachie, who I love dearly, and I know a lot of people love it. She's just amazing. Her album Saint Cloud is like a spiritual record for me. Like it's one of those ones that like it's means more to me than I could express, and like it's one of those things that's really personal. And then the band Pinegrove as well was like that band Pinegrove was like an all-time inspiration. Like the way that they were able to make such a specific, unique, cool sound that's like out of like lo-fi shit was like extremely inspiring because I was like, these people are basically making this how I make stuff, and it's not, it's like they made it cool. You know what I mean? Like there's one thing to make a lo-fi record and have it sound however it sounds because that's the shit you had. And then it's one thing to make a lo-fi record that sounds lo-fi because you don't have hi-fi equipment, but then to just make it sound really unique and really cool. And like a bigger band would pay you a lot of money for that sound, but you just made that with like the stuff you have. So those two artists I think are probably they're on my Rushmore for sure. And then like Neil Young, Bruce Springsteen. I love those guys. So
Yeah, I can hear a lot of that, especially in the songwriting. Something like Joel Roberts is like a really kind of old school, like story-driven song. But then you have these other tracks where I can hear like the Pine Grove and the Waxahachie. Um,
mhm.
do you have a particular favorite song or one that you're like most proud of?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, um, yeah, I think Bloodline. I really like the song Bloodline. It's not out yet, but it's gonna come out on the record. And um, basically, the reason I'm so proud of this song is because when I started making this record, it was like it was sort of clear that after the first couple songs I made, it was sort of clear that this record might happen to connect with a wider range of people than like the last music I was making. Like it was more like everybody seems to think this is like really sick. And then which was great, and I was really happy about that. So I was talking to my dad about it, and I was playing him the songs, and I was like, I think these are really good. Like people, this is cool or whatever. And he was like, yeah, like this is really cool. If you're gonna do all this though, make sure you're like saying what you want to say. Like don't just make this. And I think I was kind of, but it was just a little more like hidden or something. But then for Bloodline, I think I really wrote down and like got out what was on my mind in like a moment of like clarity. And I think those feel so fucking good. And I think anybody who writes, and I'm sure like anybody who does anything creative or anything at all can relate. But it's like you have that perfect moment where you're like, I feel exactly right to write this song right now. And then you write it and it's like what you thought it was. And you're like, okay, fucking word. Like it's like really clean. It was just clean. I just wrote the song and it was done and it worked and it was good. And like I've had some like Joel Roberts, I wrote like a whole version of that that was vague and didn't have the story and didn't have anything. It just had the melody. And then I like scrapped the whole thing and wrote Joel, and it took like a lot of mining. And that's cool, but the Bloodline was a clean snap. It was just like it just came out perfectly. So I'm really happy with that one, and I think those types of expressions are really interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely a different kind of thing where some songs or anything creative, it just comes to you. You don't have to
Yeah,
think about it, and then all of a sudden it's done, and you didn't even
those are
really.
so nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So American Recordings comes out February 14th. Is there anything you want listeners to kind of take away from this album?
I think I know I was trying to be as honest as possible the whole time. For me, this record is about what I love about this country, and that's why it's called that. There's so many things I absolutely hate about this country, and a lot of the reason that I love it is because I'm born here, and it's like I can see what's good about it, and I feel like I can see. It's like when you have empathy for somebody who's doing something horrible, and you're like, dude, like you're fucked up, but I know that you're just hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel about it. So I wanted to make a record that was like, because America's getting a lot of bad press. I just wanted to put my stamp down on like what I think is good about this place. Well, obviously, I mean, if anybody talks to me, they know I'm not happy with our politics or the way we run shit. But I think that like culturally, there's certain cultural things about the country that I really fuck with and I rep, and those things are in the record. And yeah, this shit is fucking everything to me. I love this shit. It's like a document of my fucking life and like me hanging out with my friends and everything that I think is beautiful. So I hope you enjoy it, basically.